Hi, and welcome to the Teaching Corner. Today I want to talk to you about ways that you can help someone who is dealing with anxiety, ways you can help them to calm down. As a parent and a teacher of students who deal with anxiety, I know oftentimes it can be very difficult. Again, like I talked about in our previous video, if a student is having a meltdown, you're not going to be able to to talk about the situation in that moment. You're going to have to wait until they have calmed down. So a couple of things to help with folks that have anxiety. The first thing that I would say an easy thing to do is a good multivitamin, and you want to make sure that it has the B vitamins in it, and you also want to make sure, it is magnesium, I believe is yes, magnesium in it. They also recommend for brain development fish oil. I have not been successful in my own family with that one, so if someone knows of a way where they're not gigantic horse pills, you could comment down below, but fish oil is supposed to be helpful. So that's one thing you can do to definitely help. Is to try to provide those vitamins and minerals that help with calming the system down. Another thing to do as a teacher or a parent is essential oils. You can put them in a diffuser or put them on your child if you use the roll-ons and things like that. But scents like lavender are supposed to be calming. You can definitely talk to someone if you go to a health food store, or if you know someone who sells essential oils, talk to them about the types of essential oils that help with calming someone who has anxiety down. Another thing that is helpful is breathing. So in the last video we talked about how the brain, when they're having a freak out moment, it goes from being able to have logical thought to brainstorming, and this is our fight or flight response. So one of the things that happens when we're in fight or flight response, your heart rate increases and your breathing tends to get shallow. So getting the person to try to stand still and to breathe deeply, breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, and doing that at least 3 times. Oxygen, having a lot of oxygen rush to the brain kind of tricks the brain into thinking, oh, we're not freaking out, we're calm, because when you're just breathing normally, you get lots of oxygen to the brain. And so that's one way, of breathing and calming the body down. Another thing that you can do is use stress balls. So put one in each hand, or if you have those spring-loaded things that kids use to strengthen their hands, you can do that. But squeezing and releasing, that releases lots of tension in the body. But of course, you need to not just stay rolled up, you have to release it. One of the things that I would do with my students as a game is called stiff body, where we all get as stiff and as tight as we possibly can, and then we would just ragdoll and like almost fall to the floor. Not quite, but almost fall to the floor. Another wonderful thing is yoga. Yoga concentrates a lot on breathing and then on stretching the body, so that can also be very, very calming. Exercise is a really good thing. If you have a child, getting them to get some of that anxious energy out is really good. Running is wonderful. Swimming is wonderful. Swimming in itself is very calming because of the water going across the body. But also weight-bearing exercises, so push-ups or anything where they're bearing some weight, helps release some of that anxious tension. Also, rubbing your earlobes. Of course, I'm doing a cross midline here, but also rubbing your earlobes helps, because you have pressure points in your earlobes that help calm. People who are really nervous about flying will often do that while they crunch their toes in the carpet, because that helps to center and calm people down. Another thing that you can do is quiet activities like reading, doing a puzzle, listening to calming music sometimes, or noise machines when they go to sleep, things like that, things that are going to calm them down. You can also listen to ones that have techniques where it might tell you, you know, to relax the muscles in your legs and relax, and it'll move up through the body. All of those are really, really calming. Sleeping with a weighted blanket can be helpful, just because that's very centering. Those are now a lot more available as a teacher and parent. I've also learned that if you will talk in a whisper when someone is having a moment and they're really, really upset, talking really, really calmly, getting close to them. If we're not in a violent mood, getting close to them and talking really, really calmly can sometimes help. I was at a marriage conference one time and they said have knee-to-knee conversations, because if you're sitting knee-to-knee, it's awful hard for somebody to yell at you when you're talking to each other really closely. So another thing you can do is provide some deep pressure by putting a blanket around the person and squeezing them. Just anything to try to relieve and alleviate that pressure. And then finally, one of the things that I alluded to when I talked about changing the way a person is thinking is what's called cognitive behavioral therapy. I did a video on applied behavioral analysis, or ABA therapy, and that is helpful for anyone on the spectrum. That's also helpful for anyone with behavior issues. Prior to the age of around 8 or 9, you're going to have to use that for children with anxiety, because a child below that age is really not able to think about their own thinking. But if a child is around 8 or 9 and is really anxious, cognitive behavioral therapy is a good way, because it's beyond just therapy, just talking about what it is that is bothering us, but it's also changing the way, and that internal, remember in that last video I was talking about all those negative thoughts that are swimming around in your head. It's changing that internal dialogue so that we're changing the way we think about situations. It's the same situation, but we're looking at it in a different perspective. So I strongly recommend finding a good cognitive behavioral therapist if your child has anxiety, so that they can talk to them. They say it takes about a year of therapy for the child to be able to use those strategies. And definitely, if you are the parent of that child, I would encourage you to stay in contact with the therapist, so that there are things that you can try at home, mantras you can say, or things you can do in particular situations to support what the therapist is saying. You know, because if you're not doing that, then therapy isn't really going to be as helpful, because younger children, I had somebody remind me of this, they're not at the stage, remember this part of our brain's not fully developed till we're 25, so oftentimes we're going to have to continue to help them with these things, continue to put these things in their toolbox, but also help them take them out and utilize it until, you know, they can do it on their own, which may be a teenager. It may take a while. It's not something that's going to happen immediately, because you're literally having to change the way you think and process about various events. So I hope these suggestions were helpful. If they were, please like, share, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.